I'm going to talk more about health issues today. A little bit about chronology, but I went back and picked up the chronology items I wanted to insert today, and I'm going to talk more about health overall. This is a picture of what I looked like before I was put into the program of energy weapon torture. Now it's 20 years later, granted, and we change as we age. But there have been things done to me to change my appearance. Vic Livingston, who's on Facebook, just published a picture of what he looked like 10 years ago when they started on him and what he looks like now. So if any of you are on Facebook and can Google or call up on Facebook Vic, V-I-C Livingston. He used to be a reporter at Fox, and he's posting about this stuff because he's a target. He's been subjected to it, so you can see a major difference in what he looked like 10 years ago. Mine's been over 20. These nice little lines here, this indentation in my face, all the discoloring, because I sleep on the right side of my face, so my face is asymmetrical because there's been more of a collagen collapse of her neck. I believe that 1993 was the start of all this, but I don't know the exact time because those files are somewhere, and there are people who know where those files are, and they need to be brought forward for me and for everybody else that's been in this program. As I said in one of the other videos, I've read that it's hundreds of people, I've read that it's hundreds of thousands of people, and I've read that it's millions. And when you get into millions, you're talking about people around the world as well. Zersetzen's a United States, United Kingdom, and Canadian thing, and most likely Australia and New Zealand because they're part of the Five Eyes. I read something that Putin had banned several years ago. He had banned the use of directed energy electromagnetic weapons on Russian people. I don't know if there had been a program like the one that's going on here, but I did read that recently. Whether that's true or not, it's hard to say, but it would be nice if it was. I started to have all kinds of health problems I'd never had before in the 90s. Severe reactions to some foods that had never bothered me before. Extreme digestive problems. You know, if your digestive system's not working right, the rest of your health is severely impacted. And the digestive system has a direct connection to your brain. So your brain's not functioning and can get real sick if your digestive system's not working well. And there were a couple times that I was extremely constipated, and it was awful. And this went on during the rest of the time I was teaching up to the year 2000 when I took early retirement. Part of the reason was that I was worn down. I was getting run down, and I had enough years in that I could do that with my years from Ohio. So I went ahead, and I could have taught 5 or 10 more years if I hadn't been being subjected to this. And we have this culture in our country about, oh, you can retire and you can travel and you can do this and you can do that. And on the other hand, it's like, oh, you're retired. Well, why don't you just get sick and get out of here because you're taking up space? And a lot of older people who still want to work have been pushed out over the years too. So, but a lot of people, I mean, there were people teaching when I started teaching, especially when I moved to Colorado. There were people there teaching that had taught for quite a while longer than I taught. And when you're dealing with young kids like that, your energy level, if you're older, you don't have the quite same vim and vigor you had when you were younger. But on the other hand, when you're getting blasted and harmed, it really affects it. And as I said in one of the other videos, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on supplements and things to try to keep myself healthy, and gained a whole lot of weight more than once. After I quit teaching that first year, I felt pretty good. My digestive system, since I wasn't in the classroom and I wasn't on that having to deal with the classroom schedule of when you could leave and go to the restroom, my body seemed to try to be readjusting and resetting itself. And my digestive system was a big part of that. There were some things going on that were different from what had been going on. And in retrospect, as it was happening, I was concerned because it seemed strange. But as it was happening, I finally decided, well, maybe everything that's in there just finally getting out. And it took a while, but eventually, and I was feeling pretty good. And I had about a year of that. One of the things that happened during that year is my husband had been a runner, and he had a severe muscle loss in one of his legs. He said to me when he noticed it, he was starting to get a little bit of a limp, and he said to me that when he'd been running, he had a sharp pain. And I'm thinking, what I know now is that he got hit with an energy weapon. If somebody was driving by, they could have hit him in the leg, and whatever went into his leg caused that muscle to deteriorate. And when we went to the doctor and tried to get it diagnosed, they said it was like a localized form of ALS. Well, the directed energy weapons attack brains. They attack the nervous system, your neurological system. So you're talking about brain tumors or Alzheimer's or dementia. You're talking about ALS or Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis. You're talking about all kinds of the diseases that are becoming so prevalent in our society. You're talking about all kinds of cancers. Radiation causes cancer. Energy weapons cause cancer. You're talking about maybe some forms of arthritis. You're talking about a lot of stuff. And he had that. We didn't, we couldn't imagine what, it just kind of happened out of the blue. And it was like it happened, and I don't know what the time period was. I don't know how long he felt the pain before the muscle had it's like it atrophied. And that was their diagnosis. It was like a localized form of ALS, and so he had a limp. So was he shot directly in that leg, in that muscle, with something? Was it done from up above? Was it done with biological chemicals of some kind? I don't know. But this is what's going on in our world, in our country. This is what's happening to U.S. persons in this country. So he had that issue come up, and I was feeling pretty good, and the digestive issues were resetting, and I was sleeping That was in the early 2000s, and then I started to have a fairly serious weight gain, and by 2004 I was diagnosed with a large abdominal tumor, and I went through the conventional medicine with the local hospital to have it removed there because my support system was there in town, what I thought was a support system. It was a very scripted and staged support system. When it was removed, supposedly they were going to send it to Johns Hopkins. He told me that ahead of the surgery, that we're going to send it to Johns Hopkins, which I thought was weird at the time. Why would you send it all the way away somewhere when they've got hospitals in Denver that could take care of that, checking it out? And Johns Hopkins has a connection with the energy weapon development and research, it seems. So that might be a reason. Or that might have been scripting and staging for me down the road, because they seem to script and stage ahead too. After I went in initially, I went in initially to one of the female doctors, and she sent me for a CAT scan. After I had the CAT scan and I went in, she showed me the results. And she said that the surgeon, the gynecologist, would do the surgery. When I talked to him, his plan was to debulk me. And if you don't know what debulking is, you can Google it. I didn't know what it was then. All I knew is he was talking about taking out a whole lot of stuff, including the peritoneum on my stomach. And it sounded like really, really bad surgery. And we didn't know if the tumor was malignant at that point. You know, it hadn't been taken out and tested. We hadn't done any kind of testing on it. It had a CAT scan. So I went home after having been told this and seen the x-ray, and slept through the night. And it was interesting because it was summer. This was August. And we had a gentle rain that night, which is very unusual in the mountains there. It was a very gentle rain, and the windows were open so I could hear it. And I wasn't sleeping because my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. And I kept getting this message: just have him take out the tumor and the ovary it's connected to. It's the tumor and the ovary it's connected to. And I thought, well, I can, that works for me, because the tumor needs to come out, and if it's attached to an ovary, that needs to come with it. So I went back the next day and said, I was awake all night thinking about this, and this is what I want you to do. Just remove the tumor in the ovary. Don't take out anything else, because it was like, he was doing the preemptive, we'll take everything out, that way it'll be out, and if it is malignant, we won't have to go back in and do more surgery. So I had to kind of stand in my power and be an advocate for myself. And he wasn't real happy with me, but I did what I felt I needed to do. And even when I went in the morning of the surgery, right before they started putting me under, he asked me again, "Are you sure?" Here I am in the stages of getting mentally ready for this, and he's asking me if I want to change my mind. No. So the surgery took, an hour and a half. It wasn't as long as I expected, and I woke up kind of zonked in the recovery room, and my husband was hovering around, and they moved me into the regular hospital room. And by the afternoon, of the day of the surgery, I had like 6 or 8 people in my room visiting me the day of the surgery, which in retrospect, that was, my husband should have been there and nobody else really should have been there because I was in major recovery. That was like mobbing in the hospital room, and I was high on the anesthetic, and so I under the anesthetic, I was glad to see people, I thought, but I really didn't need to have that whole crew in my room. And they all showed up that afternoon, and then nobody came back. So that's part of the staging. That's the kind of thing they do. And I was there. The surgery was on a Tuesday, and I was there until Friday morning. He released me on Friday morning. And it took several weeks for me to recover because I was pretty well physically down from the effects of this. They said the tumor weighed 20 pounds, but again, I don't know if that's accurate because they make things up. They could have just said that to try to make it dramatic, so I would tell people that. It could have been 5 pounds, could have been 10 pounds. But whatever it was, I was a lot healthier without it, and I lost a lot of weight without it there. So that was 2004. 2007 was when I had the shingles. I talked about the wart that appeared on my leg earlier. Let's see how my time is now. Okay, I have a little more time. I got the wart the year before I had the shingles. The shingles was a bad case of shingles. It was right around my midsection. And I didn't know about the shot that you could take to counter the effects of the shingles. I didn't know that they had developed something that could nullify some of the effects. So I was in extreme pain. You have to get the shot within a certain amount of time. So I endured through February, and we got packed up and went to Arizona for the month of March. And the house that we had rented was close to a fire station where they got to do their sirens a lot, and not too far from a interstate where they had the interstate noise, and had people in the neighborhood who were participating in the whole scenario. And again, the two sets of friends that were down there that I talked about for when we went down in 2010, I didn't see them that much in 2007 either. They were pretty absent from one of their friends who was seriously sick with something called shingles, because shingles make you really sick. And while we were down there, my husband had a emotional blow up directed at our dog. Our dog did something that really upset him, and he really yelled at her. So that was one of the first times I saw him go off like that. And I realized there was stuff going on while we were down there that was not okay. And I'm not going to go into that right now. So that was another time when I got a clue about things going on with him, but I didn't know what it was. So I'll stop there because I still want to talk some more about health effects.